All right. Let's see. We have, great. 3 people in the chat. Let's go. 2022 CUUC Captains and Coaches meeting. First off, thank you all for how much you've done to organize your teams to get ready for this series. I know it's a lot of work in a very short time for all the coaches, all the players, and all the organizers. So thank you for all your work. Next up, I am Andrew Batchelor, Ultimate Canada's competition director. You'll see me around the event. You'll be able to recognize me with my red hat, but if it gets too cold, I might be wearing my Ultimate Canada CUUC. So that's how you'll recognize me. If it's nice and warm, I might be in my Ultimate Canada hoodie. All right, so let's get into all the information. I'm going to run this meeting in 2 parts. The first part is going to be information that's good for everyone to know. And after that part's done, I'll take questions about that. And the second part will be stuff that's really just for the captains, so all the players can log off. And all the captains who are watching this, you can send the link to your players later, say watch the first X minutes. I'll tell you how many minutes it is at that time. And they can watch those things later, so they all have the same information that everybody needs. All right, so without further ado, part 1. Okay, let's start with logistics. The fields are at Credit View Sandalwood Park in Brampton. There's a field map included in the schedule. It looks, whoops, let's find an angle that works. There. Fields look like that. And you'll see Disc Central is going to be over here. First Aid is going to be over here. Showcase Field is Field 2. Okay. You can find that map in the schedule for Friday, schedule for Div 1, and the schedule for Div 2. There's a tab in each of the schedules. Parking, there's lots of parking there. Parking spots. Don't park where there's no parking. There's just lots of parking, so you don't have to worry about that. I showed you where First Aid is going to be. First Aid is going to be between Fields 1 and Fields 10, near the VC tent. That's where you'll find First Aid. There will be taping services available 30 minutes before the start of games. Taping is free. However, the tape itself is not. If you bring your own tape, they will use your tape and do it for free. If you need to buy a roll, it'll be $5 per roll. We'll go over health and safety stuff a little bit further. The closest hospital is the Brampton Civic Hospital. Okay, field food. There will be no field food provided. However, there will be a food truck available on site in the late morning until the late afternoon. Okay. So plan accordingly. Pack your own snacks, pack your own everything so that you're ready at the fields and you're not scrambling for nutrition. Water, there will be water available at every field. We will do our best to get it out, but we implore you to bring full water bottles in the morning. The first thing in the morning is when our staff is the absolute busiest setting up all the fields. We don't have time to refill empty water jugs that are empty before the first games because all the players showed up with empty water bottles. So all the tap water is fine to drink. Just use your tap water and at the hotels or at your B&Bs and you'll be good to go. Hey. There will be lots of toilets. There are some indoor toilets between fields 14 and 15. There are some indoor toilets behind field 21 and 22. And there will be porta potties all throughout the site. Use them. Public urination, not cool. Okay. Garbage. Make sure your garbage goes in the garbage cans. Okay. This site is very important to us. We host a lot of events here. It's so big and we desperately need it for lots of events. Don't leave your trash everywhere. We don't want the park staff getting mad at us for leaving trash everywhere. I don't want your dirty, wet socks left on the sidelines. I don't want your banana peels left on the sidelines. Put them in the garbage bins. Okay. We do have observers for all 3 days. We don't have enough to do every single game, but we will be assigning them to certain games. If you want to request games, you can contact me, batch@canadianultimate.com. Or come to Disc Central and request observers for your games. VC will be on site. They will be set up behind Field 2, and they'll have all kinds of swag for you to buy. Okay, health and safety. So, COVID procedures. Let's read these out. Proof of vaccination is not required, but you absolutely have to respect people that choose to wear a mask. Okay, so even if you're not wearing a mask, respect people that are. If you are going into the medical tent, the medical staff may require you to wear a mask. So bring a mask. Uh, what we do ask is that everyone be monitoring their well-being closely. So do self-assessments. If you have any symptoms, you have to take an Ontario COVID self-assessment. If the screening indicates that you need to take a COVID test or stay home, you must take a COVID test and have a negative test result before coming to the fields. If you are residing with someone, that means in the same hotel room or in the same Airbnb of someone that has tested positive for COVID-19, you also have to take a test every day and it has to be negative before you can come to the fields. Okay. Individuals who have contracted COVID-19 may not attend Ultimate Canada events until they have met the isolation period, which in Ontario is 5 days. So if you have COVID-19, you must isolate for, I don't, maybe that's not even an Ontario rule, but Ultimate Canada has a rule 5 days. No, don't come to the field if you've had COVID within the last 5 days. You can find more details at the Ultimate Canada site in our return to play guidelines. And finally, we are encouraging all teams to have a contingency plan if somebody on their team tests positive. That means you need to have a hotel room where you can isolate them. You need to have a plan on how they're going to get home after the tournament. You need to have a plan on what their teammates are doing. What if it's the driver? How are their passengers getting home if the driver can't travel with them? Think about all these things, have plans in place. Okay, lightning. If you hear 3 horns, that means there's a threat of thunder and lightning. And when we hear thunder, when thunder roars, go indoors. That's the rule. So participants should return to their vehicles. That's the best place to go. If you don't have a vehicle, we have a couple lightning shelters. There's a lightning shelter behind a central where the indoor bathrooms are at fields 21, 22. Also, the fire hall between fields 14 and 15 can be used as a lightning shelter in emergency. But let's try to get to our cars if you can. That's the best place to be. In terms of how to restart games, or listen to the Ultimate Canada social media. We'll send out emails to the captains. I'll probably post stuff in the schedules as well. Whichever day we're on, I'll post notes in the schedules about the delay and when we're going to restart. We'll update the times in the schedule to get that going. Just know that when you hear the 3 horns, play is dead immediately. And that just put the disc down exactly where it is. If the disc is in the air, it's going back to thrower. So, and just take note of who is in possession and get to safety. Safety is the priority. Ultimate falls behind that. Upon ending the delay, I'll set up a time for warm up and then play will resume with the horn. Okay, concussion. Ontario is a Rowan's Law province, so that means we have to follow a certain concussion protocol. It's listed in the captain's package, but what it boils down to is if a medical personnel on site, that's the athletic therapist, physiotherapist, there are doctors on teams. There's lots of med students at this event. If anyone suspects concussion, you have to get assessed and you have to have a doctor's or nurse practitioner's note before you can return to play. No ways around this. You absolutely have to have a note to get back to playing if any medical personnel suspects a concussion. Right? There's a flow chart in the captain's package. Please read it. And if you're a player, ask your captain to send you your captain's package. Okay, competition. The schedule is available online. The Ultimate Canada website has it. Also sent out to a link to all the captains, and it's also in the captain's package. but you can find it on the Ultimate Canada website. All games are going to use the current version of the USAU rules, which is the 2022-2023 USAU Rules of Ultimate. You can find those on the usaultimate.org website. Also in the USA Ultimate app. That's how I find the rules conveniently. That way it's right always in my pocket. Ultimate Canada endorses genuine communication in either official language throughout the CUUC series, including during active play when players may count stalls or call infractions in their language of choice. So let's work to keep the lines of communication open and just be great communicators. All games have a point cap of 15. Half at 8. That's standard. Hard cap is at 80 minutes. That's the time on the schedule. At 80 minutes, I will blow a horn, finish the point in progress. Only if it's tied do you play another. If it's not tied, the game is over at the conclusion of the point. Halftime is 5 minutes in duration. Each team has 2 timeouts per half. And then the Ultimate Canada Competition Director, that's me, has the ability to alter these caps should the situation require. Examples include, but are not limited to, weather, adjacent bookings, field conditions changing, those sorts of things. Something that does come up at universities often is halftime cap. So this is in the USAU Rules of Ultimate, and at 40 minutes, there's no horn for this, so you have to monitor the clock yourself. After 40 minutes, if neither team has already taken half, you finish the point in progress. If that's still not half, you add 1 to the leading score and make that the new halftime target score. Halftime is taken when that point is scored and not before. So a common source of confusion is when the halftime cap goes, teams think, oh, finish the point and that's half. That's not the case. Finish the point, add 1, play to that. Okay. So for example, if the score is say 4-5 when 40 minutes has elapsed, finish the point, say it's tied up to make it 5-5. You play 1 more and you add 1 to the leading score and it's 6. So that would be 6 and you play to 6. Halftime will be taken at 6 points. If, for instance, the score is say 7-3 and the halftime cap goes, and then somebody scores to make it 7-4, half is still at 8. Okay, you don't take half right away. You still have to play to 8. It is possible that the team that was down 7-4 just keeps scoring and we get all the way to hard cap before full time expires and then you don't have a half. That is possible. Okay? But you don't just force a half to happen because you haven't had one yet. You take it at the point, at the halftime point cap. Okay? Plenty of time for questions. Put them in the comments if you have, but I'll get to questions at the end. Okay? We do have some cases where pools of 3 are used. I think it's unlikely that we're going to get 3-way ties, but in case there's a possibility of an unbreakable 3-way tie, which is when all teams are 1-1 and all scores are identical. To avoid this, at the conclusion of the second round robin game, if the score of the first 2 games is identical and one team is 1-1, then an additional point is played just in case. This point does not count towards the score. This point is only used in a case of the tiebreak being needed. And what has happened is the team that scores that point finishes first, and the team that doesn't score that point finishes last, and the team that wasn't involved in that game finishes second. So I don't think it's going to happen. I'll be monitoring, but just so we know, that's what we do. If both scores from the first 2 games are identical and one team is 1-1. Okay, games start and end with the horn. No exceptions. None. Never. Okay, at CUC Masters this summer, I had a game start right under my nose as I was getting ready to blow the horn. They scored a point. I blew the horn and I went over to them and said, score 0-0. That point doesn't count. You played before the horn. Restart. Okay. And they were disappointed, but those are the rules. Those rules were clear, and you need to wait for the horn to start. and you also use the horn to end. There's no exceptions to that. Okay. Forfeits. So I think I'm going to talk about this more during the captain's section because it's not really important for everyone. So let's leave that for now. In case of inclement weather, you never know when a game's going to get called and not have a chance to restart. At CUC Masters this summer, we had lots of games going on Sunday, and the thunderstorms rolled in, and they didn't let us back on the field. The thunderstorms just kept coming. And I called a bunch of games before they were ending. Some games ended 4-2. Some games ended 2-1. That's the way it was because we were out of time. It was the last time slot. There's no chance to restart them. That was final. So my advice is always be winning. Okay. Swearing, if it's directed at an opponent, an observer, a volunteer, never permitted. That's a red card. You're getting tossed. Okay. So don't. If you swear mumbling under your breath to yourself, probably no one's going to say anything. If you swear at your teammate in encouragement really loud for the live stream to hear, probably not a good idea. Okay, so just keep the language in check. Okay. Also, from the same point of view, if you're playing a giant stereo on the sideline with pump up music and it's full of curse words, I might come and tell you to turn it off. Don't even try. Keep it clean. Keep the music clean. Okay. At the same point, all celebrations must be PG and respectful. I can't believe I have to say this, but after you score a goal, go celebrate with your team. Yes. Do not make fun of the other team. Do not make rude gestures toward the other team. This is not acceptable. This is something that used to happen at CUCs, and I haven't seen it in a while, and I don't want to see it again. So I'm just saying it again. And then we're going to be collecting scores online via form. I'll get to that in the captain's section. Spirit, we'll talk about that more in the captain's section, but what everybody needs to know is play with spirit. Spirit of the game is the principle on which our sport is founded. It means you can play hard, but never at the expense of mutual respect for your opponent and your teammates. You play hard, but play clean. Honest communication, no yelling, no arguing. Disagreeing, yes. No yelling, no arguing. Okay. There's all kinds of spirit resources available online. So if you're having trouble, captains, send those resources out to your team so they're all ready for the weekend. Okay, this is the captain's meeting. Questions coming soon. Last thing here is spectators. Spectators are allowed. They should follow the same COVID procedures that I outlined before. They should be self-screening before they come to the site for symptoms. If they have symptoms, then they should be doing the self-assessment tool. They'll be told if they have to test and all those sorts of details. Spectators should also keep a respectable distance. That's 5 meters away from the player sidelines, 8 meters from the field, whichever is further, or they can be 5 meters behind an end zone. Okay, that's just a safety thing. So I think that's going to conclude part 1. This is 18 minutes. Let's see if we have any questions. You can drop them in the comments. I'll see if they pop up before we move on to part 2, which is just for the captains. Excuse me. Okay. I'm not seeing any questions coming into the comments. If they pop up while I'm going, I'll stop and I'll do this. But so that concludes the athlete section. We'll go to the captain section of the meeting now. This is the 19-minute mark, 19:26. Okay. So captains, first off, a lot of times I take attendance at these meetings. So if you could just quickly write your team name in the comments so I can see who's here. And that way I can see, even if you're not watching this live, you can pop it in the comments later so I can see who's been here. I'm not going to stop and do attendance for everyone though. How to report your scores. All right, let's see. I'm going to, so the link was sent out in the captain's package, but if you don't have the captain's package, you can always find it in the schedule. you go to the, let's see here, we got the All Games tab, and at the top we have the online score reporting. So I'm just going to click that link to open up the form. Okay. This might be hard to see, but that's okay. Also, if you see me walking around with my QR code, that's because I need you to submit your score. So yeah, you can't read this at all. So I'm just going to go through it quickly. If you have the link open, you can follow along, but don't worry about it. So this form, when it pops up, it asks you for your division, your team name, your score. Okay, so and then opponent name and opponent score. So if you've lost, make sure you put in the lower score first because that's your score. Too many times I see teams put in, oh, we lost 15-7. They write 15 for their score and 7 for the opponent's score. But if you lost, you need to put 7-15. Okay, so make sure you put in your score first and then the opponent's score next. Hey, and then we have the spirit stuff here. Okay, so here, the first category is rules knowledge. The second category is fouls and body contact. The third category is fair-mindedness. Fourth category is positive attitude. And fifth category is communication. Each of these questions is on a 5-point scale where 0 is terrible and 4 is incredible. Normal games should say 2, which is normal. So terrible, poor, normal, exceptional, incredible. That's the 0 to 10. I want to see 2s all the time. 2s is what I love to see on the spirit. Hey, occasional 3s, great. Anytime you give a 4, I need a full sentence explaining why you gave a 4 in that category. And it can't just be they were great. That is not a full sentence explaining why this team is incredible. Incredible means they're like the best team you've ever seen in this category. Like rules knowledge, like that's one here, category 1. Incredible. You say, this guy that we were playing against, he had the whole rule book memorized. He was telling us which section to look up. He explained the sideline on the rules, all this stuff. Maybe that's an incredible thing. Maybe that's a 4. You write out that sentence in the comments to explain why you gave a 4. They knew the rules. That's a 2. Hey, everybody should know the rules. Hey, that's a 2. Fouls and body contact. Hey, 4 to be incredible. Like you'd have to say this person was laying out left, right, and center and never made contact with anybody. Like I don't like that. Has the level of incredibleness needs to really be up there. Okay? Fair-mindedness, positive attitude, communications. Okay, then there's a box for the spirit to put in there, and that's where you put in the comments. Where for every 4 and every 0 you give out, you have to put in a comment. If I see 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and there's no comments, your team is disqualified from the spirit. If I see 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, no comments, your team is disqualified from the spirit. In fact, if I see 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, or 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, that game didn't actually happen. There's no way. I don't believe it. Like that's a disqualification from the spirit. At most, games should have 1 or 2 4s like that. 2 4s is like the most incredible thing I should ever see. And then very importantly, you write your name at the bottom. That's how I can come find who did the spirit and say, you did this wrong. This is your lesson. Don't do it again. Put in your name so I know what happens. That's also important if you have 2 people that submit it. I say, there's 2 for your team here. Which one of these am I taking? And then I can find the 2 people that submitted it. Okay. So honestly, before you show up, assign somebody on your team whose job it is to submit the score and make them do it. Okay. Make them do it after every game. Okay. So I want the spirit reported properly, and I just explained what properly means, and I want it reported promptly. That means before your next game, the spirit's in there. If I'm wandering around during your game because you haven't submitted your spirit, I'm coming to flag you down with my clipboard QR code, my red hat. I'm saying, where's your spirit guy who didn't put the spirit in last time? You're in trouble. If I have to do that to your team twice, you're disqualified from the spirit standings. Okay. And then yeah, and also if you're on the field when I come over to find you, I'm going to be even more annoyed waiting for you to come off the field. You might have to miss the next point because you're still putting the spirit for the last game. Hey, so just do it promptly right after. And then last thing, I just added this extra bonus thing this year. I'm trying to work on some new prizes for CUUC. So I've added this: name an MVP from your team for the game and name an MVP from your opponent for the game. You don't have to do that; it's optional. But I'm just trying to work on some stuff. See if it's going to be a cool new trick for future years. Okay, so that is how to fill out a spirit. So quickly, any questions on how to fill out the spirit? Yeah, I'm just going to give it a little second for people to get the questions in. Nope. Okay, if questions pop up, I'll answer them as they come. Okay. Proofs of enrollment. Thank you so much for so many of the teams who got them in on time. Thank you so much for all the teams that have resolved their issues. Teams that are still in trouble with issues. I have very minor issues for Toronto Met Women, Victoria Open, and Laurier Open. So those emails, I've sent follow-up emails this evening, less than an hour ago, for those 3 teams. Again, these are minor issues. They're not going to be problems. And then Guelph Open Women, Western Open Women, you know the issues. These are major issues. They need to be resolved. If they're not resolved, you will not have, even though you're playing Friday, your access to Div 1 will be removed. Okay, so let's get those minor issues done. I'm traveling tomorrow afternoon, so I won't have a chance to look at emails during that time. Tomorrow afternoon being Thursday afternoon. So get them done Thursday morning. There'll be limited opportunity for me to look at things Thursday night. Okay. Friday teams. If you're playing Friday and you have a path to Div 1, you must accept your bid with me, the Ultimate Canada Competition Director, after your victory. Hey, that's how I'll know to advance you into the Saturday Div 1 games. Hey, it's really nothing more than a batch. We accept our bid. That's all it's required. Okay. But yeah, absolutely has to be done. Okay. Forfeits. I said I'd come back to this. So let's forfeits. Don't forfeit. That would be great. But sometimes it gets to Sunday afternoon and you're just down on legs and you're down on your luck and you absolutely have to. The only games you're allowed to forfeit are the last game of the day for both teams. It needs to be the last game for both teams. It might be your last game, but if the other team has another game, they don't want to sit through an extra bye because you forfeit your last game. It has to be the last game of the day for both teams to allow a forfeit. If you are forfeiting, there is an option in the form to select forfeit. Under it goes 15, 14, 13, all the way down to 0, and then F, that means forfeit. If they forfeit to you, put in a score of 1 to forfeit. If you forfeit to them, put in a score of forfeit to 1, and I will resolve that. If it's a double forfeit, you can put in an F to an F, but you better make sure that both teams put in that same forfeit score, because last year we had an issue where one team thought the other team forfeited and the other team didn't know and they went and played and they said the other team didn't show up. So it was who forfeited, who didn't. Let's if you're forfeiting, let's really get that communication piece in place before a forfeit happens. Last point, when you put the spirit in for a forfeit, you should put in 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. That's a normal game. Forfeit, the forfeits are allowed. You don't dock them spirit points for forfeiting. You can't. The only category I will allow a variation in is the communication. If they were very upfront, very forthcoming, very quick to come to find you to give you that heads up about the forfeit, maybe you can give them a 3. If they were disappeared, they'd have no idea what happened to them, then maybe you give them a 1 for this communication. Okay, but it should be a 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Okay, and then the very last topic is streaming. We have games that are being streamed this weekend. Make sure your team has those matching jerseys, all whites, all blacks, like 2 colors, numbers, and if you can, go find the streamers before the game happens. Let them fill them in on your roster so they can have some smart stuff to talk about, people to watch out for, help them with the numbers if they have that going. Because I don't think our system, all these teams put your numbers in. So it'll be really helpful if you can go find the play-by-play people, give them your numbered roster. Okay. I think I've covered everything I wanted to cover. Last chance for questions before I end this meeting. Daniel has a question. What happens if a team that cannot accept a bid for Div 1 wins the bracket? Or if they knock out a team before the final game? In Open, 2 teams are ineligible. What if they both make it to the last game? So there are other games in the bracket. I will say that every team plays every game to win, even if they're ineligible. If the ineligible team wins, they move on in the bracket. Okay? If you think you're good enough for Div 1, you better beat these ineligible teams. Okay? These teams are ineligible not because they have boosted ringers on their roster. These teams are ineligible because they can't meet the Div 1 requirements. Okay. So if we say both teams make the final of a bracket in the Open division, the 2 losers can play a simultaneous game against each other for the bid. If one team makes it to the final that's ineligible, the team that they're playing against will get the bid. They should play the game anyway, especially if it's streamed. What happens if a team cannot accept the bid and wins the bracket? I think I explained that. Or if they knock out a team. Cool, thanks. Great. All right, any more questions? Okay. If you come up with more questions later, you can leave them in the comments. I'm going to check back later for the attendance anyway. I'll try to respond to them. Again, I'm traveling tomorrow afternoon, so tomorrow, Thursday morning, I'll be able to check the comments and respond to things. But I will be traveling in the afternoon, so I won't be right away there, and I'll be on site, so you can always come and ask me your questions on site. You can also email me, batch@canadianultimate.com. Thank you, everyone, for showing up, and good luck at this weekend. I'm going to end the stream.